everybody, and welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Rabun,
And I am Tiff Salcido.
and welcome back, Tiff. As you can see, she is Carmen Sandiego. Do you want to tell people why you are Carmen Sandiego today?
So I just came back from vacation, which is something I say I think more often than I probably should because I tend to be gone a lot. And I just had a fun realization this week as I was on my travels. I had my son called me he's getting married in a couple of years, and so he called me to let me know November that they're going to do a bridal shower for his soon-to-be wife, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I'll put it on my calendar. I'll be there for sure. And he's like, oh, where are you at right now? And I said, oh, I'm in Hawaii. He's like, what? And so throughout the whole week this week, anybody who reached out to me was like, hey, so Tiff, where are you at today? Or where are you gonna not like what are you doing on these dates, but where are you gonna be October 28th or so it's a fun game that my friends and family play is where in the world is Tiff this week? And it's usually somewhere cool. Everywhere but I always say I'm everywhere but where I'm supposed to be. That's my life story. I want to know about Johnny Utah.
Well, Johnny Utah is the star FBI agent who was the star football player for Ohio State in
Okay.
Point Break. So
Oh,
the not the well, I guess the remake too, but I mean, the classic one with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze,
that's the
you know.
classic one.
Yeah, which is,
Okay,
I
good.
mean,
That's the only one I
but
know of.
I was about to say, classic means that we watched it when we were teenagers.
That's right. That's right.
It's a trip how many things are classic rock now that are like, no, that's not classic rock. That's my, but I guess, you know, what I thought was classic rock when I was growing up were things that were less than 20 years old. And now Point Break is
Yeah.
30, almost 40 years old, right? It's crazy. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Patrick
Yeah.
Swayze, Keanu Reeves. That was good. That was a good movie. Oh,
Yeah.
love it.
So if you hear me say, I am an FBI agent, that's me channeling Keanu. Right.
Love
So,
it.
so if you're
Love
Carmen
it.
Sandiego, I'm Johnny Utah, who's on the beach in Hawaii right now. And so you can see the waves crashing behind me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's only going to be a minute because it's going to eat up way too much memory, which is going to make producing this way too hard. So I'm going to go back to my regular old
Yeah.
boring background.
I love the beaches of Hawaii though. It's just paradise. I can't just everything about it. If I could live in Hawaii, number one, I probably wouldn't because I feel kind of bad. Like I feel like a colonizer when I go because there's so many people there already. Like I try to be very, very respectful and of like the environment and of the people and not taking up too much space and trying to roll with the traditions there. Um, but I just love it there. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't even find words. It's just so awesome. I could go there 1,000 times and never get tired of it. It's just amazing. And I took my mom with me this time. This was her first time going to Hawaii. And I had to tell her, like, it's all fun and games until the night before you leave. And then the sadness comes over you. There's like this melancholy this like the last minute of vacation sadness. And I go, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks and you're going to feel emotional and you're not going to notice if you're just tired or you're stressed. And she's like, oh, no. Oh, yes. We were all like the last night,
Yeah.
like we have to go. But it was a great, great trip. Can't wait to go back someday. Someday soon, hopefully.
You ever find yourself like when you're getting to a certain spot, like if you've been on vacation and you're driving back home, or if you're flying back home, is there a specific time where you shift from vacation mode or relax to the stress of home? Right?
Mhm.
Is that something? Yeah. Where is it? What is it?
So it depends. So this is kind of a funny story because as we were driving home from the airport Saturday night, I said to my husband, back to reality. And we both like collectively looked at each other, said, you know what, actually our reality isn't so bad. Like there was like a moment of gratitude there. So I thought that was like pretty awesome. But I will say from my olden days, when I used to live in the Central Valley, my husband and I used to come down to Ensenada a lot. So we spent a lot of time in like Ensenada. And so there was always this moment when we're driving down I-5, as soon as we would get past Six Flags in Santa Clarita and over the grapevine where you just see all of the flatness of Bakersfield. Can I tell you, every single time we got over that crest and saw the flatness, I would start crying every single time. And I still to this day, when I get over and I see the flatlands,
Mhm.
I get a little sad every time, even if I'm not going to be there for very long. That spot is like, that's the one spot. I don't feel that so much now. I think
Yeah,
because everywhere I go has joy. Like there's not a my real life is pretty freaking awesome. I hate to be braggadocious about it, but I can say I can't complain. I could complain, but I'd be lying. So my life is pretty awesome.
we
Do you have a spot where you're like, oh, back to reality?
no, no, and that's the thing. I mean, I don't have a spot. I know people who do, and I know people
Mm-hmm.
who when they did you starts, I don't want to say start having attitude, but it starts building up in their heads, what do I have to get done? How do I get things done? Sometimes people get quieter, or you just start to see them tensing up. It's been in a
Mm-hmm.
couple of different relationships where um, behaviors and demeanors change, at like an hour away from home or, on the way back, or even that Sunday, if you're coming back, Sunday morning, even if you're still there or coming back Sunday, whatever it is. So, but no, I look forward to being home, you know. I guess I used to like when I didn't live so close to the Bay Area when I mean, when I lived in Southern California on the way back, no, even then I would just, okay, I'm on the road, I'm in the moment. What are some things that I need to do? And then it was just, how do I get home and get ready for the next day? But it never really affected my mood so much. I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I just noticed with other people, it really did affect how they felt, so that's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah. I think for me back then, a lot of it had to do with like kids. No offense to my kids. I love my kids a lot.
Mhm.
But I will say when he and I would go on our little rendezvous down to the Baja California, it would just be the two of us.
Mhm.
And, at the time I had three kids and we were taking care of his mom and, I had work and home responsibilities. And so for
Yeah,
those, few days that we could be down in Ensenada, it was just like I didn't have to worry about anything or anyone. I
yeah,
could just like live my best life and not have the pressure of making sure the kids were fed or happy or his mom, had she gotten her medication yet or whatever it was
yeah.
just like that moment of just existing and being present. And then like again, as soon as you go into Bakersfield you see that it was like, oh, back to the chaos of being a parent and a caregiver and a partner and a employee and all of the other things that came with it. It was just a lot of, again, like you say, you're thinking about what do you need to do and whatever. It was a lot. So I think now because it's just I just have to worry about myself. Again, being the empty nester, I know I use that the empty nester, but I mean the not having the pressure of raising children, or being a caregiver and only having to worry about like myself and my spouse and our dog, like that is a great feeling, especially after being the responsible one for like my whole life. Like being able to
Mhm.
just worry about myself is I don't know. I think sometimes I think I'm selfish and then I'm like, no, you know what? I've done my time. And this is just a period. There's going to come a point where I'm back to being the caregiver. I'm back to, we're going to get old. We're going to have to take care of each other. My kids are going to have kids. I'll be a grandparent. I'm going to have those little critters to take care of, like it's a phase and I need to just ride this wave while it lasts. And I'm really enjoying it. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
So I have a question. Here's my question
Okay.
for you, Mr. Carl, Mr. Johnny Utah. So I just got one of the fun things about being in Hawaii is that my mom, who she lives in Oregon, she isn't exposed to a lot of different kinds of food, I guess. And we got to take her out and like really have her experience like cuisines from different ethnicities. And she was saying that she had so many firsts on this vacation. She'd never had poke before. She'd never had kimchi before. And she just kept saying, I feel like a virgin. My mom's funny. So she was just having all of these new experiences. And so I started to think about um, food and again, having a variety of food. And then I took it the other direction. So my question is this. If there was only one food that you could have for the rest of your life, like one food, you can be general. Don't be like Mexican food. I'm saying like one dish that you could eat for the rest of your life and that's it. What would that be?
So if I had one dish, blah blah blah, right? So that's one dish. It would probably have to be Asian.
Okay.
And see, I am completely being practical here, but that's just who I am. I
Mm-hmm.
think it would probably be a either a pad see ew Thai
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or maybe a like a war wonton soup, like a combination wonton soup.
Mm-hmm.
I love soup. I that's the best thing about winter is it's soup season. I
Mm-hmm.
won't sweat while I'm eating soup. So a good pozole or pho or wonton soup um really is my jam. But then also like a pad see ew, which is the flat noodles
Mm-hmm.
chow fun. I
Mm-hmm.
was raised
Mm-hmm.
on that. And but and they have lots of veggies on it and probably, I like combinations of pork and beef and stuff like that. So I would be sufficiently fed and have like as many nutrients as possible. Probably so let's say wonton because there's less carbs, even
You could
though
just even say soup. Soup could be your type of food. I
okay,
would I
soup.
would
All
accept
right.
that as an answer. So you
Cool.
can
Then
get
I'll do
lots of
soup.
variations of soup.
Well, I can, and I might have to, if my teeth
Yeah.
fall out or anything, I might end up being
Yeah. Yeah.
soup in the morning, soup in the evening. So yeah, yeah, soup.
Okay,
Yeah,
soup it is.
yeah. How about you?
I am tacos all day, every day. Tacos. And you can do so many variations of tacos. You can do hard shell tacos. You can do street tacos. You can do, you know, tacos all day long. I love tacos.
Oh, well, so if it's not a specific thing, then I probably do some type of omelets or scramble, something with an egg.
Okay.
If
So
we're gonna
egg
be
dishes.
egg dishes, I can do egg dishes. Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah. There's just. Have you ever been to gas station Chinese in Davis?
No. Yes,
See,
I have. Yes, I have. I was like, yes. I was like, is that no? I have been to gas station Chinese in Davis. Yes.
it's not called gas station Chinese, except for people who work for who we both work for. We call it gas station Chinese because it's a
Yeah.
Chinese food restaurant. It's Four Seasons Gourmet, which
In a
is
gas station.
in a gas station connected at the Chevron station there in Davis, where UC Davis is, and they they're fantastic, and it's a guilty pleasure. And they feed
Really
you
good.
it's lunch and dinner, and they make this shrimp and egg special. So it's egg and prawn they call it, and then they put a little bit of hoisin sauce on it, and they mix in veggies, and they put it over rice. And I could do with or without the rice, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the bomb. They're legit.
It's so good.
So
I
gas station Chinese, anybody that's ever driving through Davis on the right hand side, not where the campus is, but off if you get off on that Chevron, you see Four Seasons Gourmet. That is what we call gas station Chinese.
Yes, if you look for the Holiday Inn right there in Davis, it's right across the street on the other side. So
Yeah.
if you're looking in like what side of Davis, it's the Holiday Inn side. Yes, good stuff.
Yes. Oh,
Good stuff.
yeah. So thank you for that. Now you made me hungry. I just had lunch. I just had my apple slices and yogurt. But
I had eggs. I just ate eggs on toast with some sprouts on it.
well, I had leftovers from yesterday. My daughter took me to breakfast for my birthday, which is next week. But she we went to her favorite restaurant called Orphan in
Mm,
Sacramento, and it's mostly vegan. Um, I mean, they have meat options, but
mhm.
most of their menu is mostly Latin and mostly vegan, right?
Mm,
So, but I am not vegan, and so they had something called savory pancakes, which was pancakes with jack cheese mixed into the batter
mhm.
and jalapenos and bacon. And so it's literally a bacon pancake with jalapenos
Yum.
and cheese. And then you eat it with syrup. And they gave three pork and, slabs of pancake. And I finished half of it. Yes, I did say horking. And so I saved it. And I woke up this morning thinking, what could I do with those pancakes? What's missing? So I had a couple hot links. And so I fried those up and
Yum.
made them like a pig in a blanket.
Sounds delicious.
That's why I had yogurt and apple slices for lunch because I'm still full from breakfast.
Yeah, I had no food in my house, so yesterday we had to go grocery shopping because I tried to get rid of everything before we left, knowing we'd be gone for a while.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I went, but I made the mistake of going without a list, and so I was like haphazardly just walking around, having no idea. All I knew was that I needed tomato puree. I needed tomato puree because I decided yesterday because I was getting rid of the stuff in the refrigerator. I had some like too old to eat raw carrots and celery, but good enough to make like a mirepoix or something. So I'm like, ooh, I'll make a bolognese sauce today, right? Because it was Sunday and I had all day. So I chopped up the carrots and the celery and chopped up some garlic and was ready to cook it and then realized I didn't have any tomatoes because I took everything to my other house. I am like so random in this like move that I don't know where anything's at or where anything is. And so I had already taken all of my canned goods out of my pantry to my other house, and because I always have stuff in the pantry. I'm like hoarding for the apocalypse. I swear to you, when it comes to like dry food, when the pandemic hit, I wasn't worried. I'm like, oh, we're good for at least 3 to 4 business years. We're gonna be fine. But I didn't have any canned tomatoes, which is something I almost always have on hand. So I told my husband, I like, we need to go to the grocery store because we need milk, we need eggs, we need bread, like all the staples. And I'm like, and I
All
really
right.
need tomato sauce. So apparently I was just thinking about one meal. So when we got there, I was like, well, what are we going to eat the rest of the week? I don't know. So we have this random assortment of nothing that goes together. But they had sprouts and I love sprouts. I bought some. That's why I was like, I have eggs, I have bread, and I have sprouts. And so I can do eggs on toast with sprouts. That's like one of my favorite things.
Nice. Nice. Do
So
you like avocado toast?
I love avocado toast. We just didn't buy avocados yesterday because avocado toast is something I have probably 3 or 4 times a week, which is why I usually do avocado and then an egg on top of it and then tomatoes and sprouts if I have them. That's like my breakfast 80% of the time, honestly. That's why my hair's so shiny. That's why my skin is glowing. People are like, you stay so young. I'm like, I omega threes, baby. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
always sourdough toast. Always sourdough. I don't deviate. That's the only type of bread I eat is sourdough bread. That's it.
Yeah. So, oh, sourdough bread. Oh,
Yeah, that's my
I was
jam.
raised I was raised on sourdough.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Me
Okay.
too.
Well,
So now we did all this performance management last time, and
Hmm.
we ended talking about like ability, motivation, constraints. And then we decided that today would be a great day to talk about motivation. Motivation. Do you consider yourself a highly motivated person?
Highly motivated, Tiff. Highly motivated. Hmm.
Mhm.
No, we used to like one of my former lives. I ran our teen programs at Edwards Air Force Base, and we were connected with the Boys and Girls Club, and so we had a teen leadership group, and I was fortunate enough with one of my teens who's now a damn adult. Constance Reese, if you're out there, holla. Um, we were on this national steering committee for the Teen Supreme Keystone Club, and so we planned this huge event for 1,800 people. With I think there was about 30 of us on the steering committee, 15 kids, 15 adults, and we were in Atlanta, Georgia, and we planned this huge, and it was right during Drumline, so we had like the Drumline that was in Drumline, Clark Atlanta. They came and performed,
Oh,
and
how cool.
it was so cool. Anyway, so the the person was the director of the team programs for Boys and Girls Club. His name was Romero, and that was his thing. He would ask people, "Hey, are you motivated?" And everyone would say, "Highly motivated, Romero, highly motivated." Boom, boom, boom. Right. So he just triggered a memory. I don't think I've done that in 20 years. Anyways, but yeah, I think I'm motivated. And I love motivation. I'm motivated for specific things that are important to me, and it's pet. I don't want to say not a pet peeve of mine, a pet passion of mine. It's something that I care about. Done a lot of work. I mean, my dissertation was about motivation, right? And so I love talking about it. What makes people tick? What gets people to move? What gets people to move? Um, in ways that are enthusiastic and engaged, right? So yeah, I dig it. It's a it's something we've been able to make into a career, both of us. So you
Yeah,
know, how
very
about
much
you?
so.
How about you?
I'm gonna throw out a big fat it depends. Um so I have like this mix of my eye disc style that is highly motivating and influential and like excited and optimistic and energetic about things
Mm,
that when I am passionate about something, I'm probably over motivated. I get really like hyper focused on and excited about things, right?
yeah,
Um, and then when they become not as new or exciting or I get comfortable, I'm like, right. So I start a lot of things. I can't say that I finish, but when I'm thinking of ideas, I am very motivated. I'm very excited until the boredom of actual planning and doing. I'm not a planner, I'm a doer. So if it's
yeah,
just let's do it, I'm motivated to do that. But if you're like, let's sit down and fine tune the details, I'm like, "Bleh." I'm
yeah,
not so motivated. So that coupled with my ADHD that has me bouncing all over the place when
yeah,
something again is new and exciting, super motivated, but as soon as it feels like I have to do it or it's a chore, I'm no longer interested. And this is why things like um, exercise, something I know that I have to do or I should be doing, it's really hard for me to be motivated to like work out. Um, but if you were like, oh, they opened this new roller rink. Do you want to go skating? I'm like, yeah, let's go skating. Woo! Right? I'm super
yeah.
motivated to go skating. But as soon as you're like, we should go skate for exercise, I'm like, that sounds horrible. I hate skating. I hate like it's really I think it just has to do with what my brain
Mhm.
how my brain thinks about things. But I really love like I don't do anything half ass. I either put my whole heart in it or I don't do it at all. So I will say for the things that I find important, I'm very motivated to do them. And if I'm not motivated, I'm just probably not going to. So
Mm.
sorry for all my friendships that were like super hot and heavy, and then you never heard from me again. My bad. Uh, sorry for all the hobbies that I've started, and my little sister benefits from all of my time. Like I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, I don't know if you know Lush, like the Lush stores where they have all of the handmade body products. They do like bath bombs and like even everything is handmade and natural, and they make like big soap molds, and you cut a piece of like this handmade soap off. It smells fantastic. If you ever are by a Lush store, you can smell them a mile away. They're 10 out of 10. So we went to Lush, and I'm always like gravitated towards their soaps. They're like handmade soaps. I always buy a chunk of the citrus soap that they have there. And so we went to one during the pandemic, and I'm like, I can make my own soap. I'm gonna I I'm gonna start a soap making business. And so I went on this like again ADHD like rabbit hole, went down and bought all of the supplies to make soap. Bought a soap making book. I bought all the seasonings, the scents, the essential oils, the coloring that was safe for soap making. I bought like lavender. I mean, like lavender petals, like all the stuff that I was gonna make. I was gonna start this really fantastic. All the little bags that the little bars of soap were gonna go in, the molds, the cutter, like all of it, the whole shebang. I made one batch of soap and I'm like, I'm bored. And I gave it all to my little sister. So Tina, you're welcome for my hobby. I waited like 2 years and then I gave her all the stuff. But um, there's lots of things that I get really, really like excited about and then I'm over it. So I can say, depending on what it is, I can be really motivated or not at all.
And you know that temporary motivation I call being inspired, right?
Okay.
So, if you see something that seems like fun or you do it once and you're like, wow, this was fun and energizing, and it isn't sustained, or you hear one person talking about something and you're ready to go out and make change and and just really jazzed up and it doesn't stay with you, right? I think that's a piece of inspiration, right? And I so there's nothing wrong with being inspired, right? It's just, how do we sustain that inspiration, right? How do we sustain um the want to continue that? And like you said, maybe making soap was fun and maybe the fun wore off, right? Um, maybe joining the gym was fun and then, you pull weeds out in the garden and you throw your back out for a couple weeks and maybe you lost that inspiration to get up and go to the gym. Right. I'm like you. I mean, my most of my exercise is something practical, functional, right? My motivation is competition. And, um, I was just having this conversation in a coaching session, right, over the weekend with a friend. We were practicing our coaching for the program that we're in. And I talked to her about wanting to start a regimen again, an exercise regimen. And she said, well, have you ever tried to walk in place? And I said, that's not motivating. That's not something that's fun, right? I said, I have I have an elliptical and a treadmill in the garage with no TV. So guess what? They don't get used. you know, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, but
Mm-hmm.
then if I have the elliptical in the living room, it might get used for a little bit while I'm watching TV, which is cool. But then if I'm not, then it may not get used either. But, for a good 10 years in a row, I was playing tennis 3 times a week, right? Because I was, in a community of tennis players. I had a doubles partner who, we're still really close, but we were, super close when we were playing competitive tennis with each other. And I had a standing arrangement with another group of guys that I would meet with them and play. And so that was a great way to get exercise without even thinking that I was exercising, right? It was just you're in the midst
Right.
of competition and getting better and playing golf, same thing, right? Playing golf, a lot of people think, whoa, golf's not exercise. Well, when you're carrying your clubs on your back and you're walking, you can just even 9 holes at the local course where I live, yeah, by the end of 9 holes, you've got 10,000 steps, right? Which
Yeah.
is, 3 or 4 miles, right? And I don't think about the exercise piece of it while I'm playing. I'm thinking about how much I suck and how much I want to do better, right? So,
Right.
those are things that um they are ways to allow myself to sustain that ability to exercise. But when I think of them, if I were to think of them as functional things that, because I need to, maybe they wouldn't be so motivating. Now that my arthritis and my shoulders acting up, and so it's hard to
Mhm.
toss a ball in the air or to take a golf bag off of my shoulder, which hurts. So now I put it into a roller. Not as much fun. It's not as much. I feel like it's not the rhythm that I would. So guess what? My motivation's waned. So I haven't been out on the tennis court for a while. I haven't been on the golf course in a while, and it's a weak excuse for a lot of you who are like, oh yeah, well, you just got to figure it out. Cool, yeah, you can figure it out. There's a lot of things I figure out. I figure out how to work and
Right.
to bust my tail, and to be here with Tiff, producing these podcasts, and
Mhm.
those things right now are things that are stimulating me that I enjoy doing, and that really I've sustained that energy and that excitement, right? So we have different ways, and just think about that idea of motivation. You have things that you can do because you want to. You have things that you do because you need to, right?
Mhm.
And you have,
Mhm.
and sometimes you do it to gain an advantage. Sometimes you do things to, stop something from happening, right? Or to keep something at a status quo, or to um, fill in a deficit, right? And so there's many different reasons why we have motivation. We have positive motivation, right? How will this benefit us? And we have negative motivation, right? Which is we have to do it or we're going to be in trouble or this will happen, or, if anybody's ever had a 3-day pay or quit or 48-hour shut off notice or, anything else like that, that might be when you get motivated to do something, right? And so, I don't know about you, Tiff, but I mean, are you one of those folks who are a planner? Do you plan
Absolutely
stuff
not.
ahead?
So,
You know,
well, okay. Yes and no. Yes and no.
yeah.
I have I am not one I cannot have rigid plans. I can
Hmm.
have ideas, I can have like a time frame, but I need a bit of structure in that way. Like tell me when so I can kind of wrap my head around it. But if you've got a 77 point spreadsheet with like one A, one B, one C, I've you've lost me completely. Like I need I'm trying to think of like I need a bare bones plan. I need the blueprints, but I don't want like all of the specifics. If you give me too much detail, or if there is too much detail, I'm over it. I it's overwhelming for me. So even like vacation, it's really kind of funny because my mom just retired, and this week was the first like the most amount of time I've spent with my mom probably ever. Like I don't remember ever spending a solid week with my mom 24/7 every single day. It was great. We had a great time. But she just retired, and she's selling her house, and she's like trying to figure out what retirement's going to look like. And so we we told my mom that my husband and I, we were now the council. She was now invited to the council, and that all of her future decisions had to come to the council for approval. And we were giving each other like fun titles in the council. She's the council elder because she's the oldest one, so she's the elder of the council. She's also sergeant at arms because my mom she chooses violence every time. She's the one that keeps everybody in line. And then my husband had I call him the fleet manager and the facilities director because he's the one that always worries about the cars and takes care of the house and the maintenance and all that stuff. And then I was the events coordinator and the treasurer. Those were my two positions on this council. And so, as the events coordinator, I'm literally the one who plans all of the vacations. Like I have a real knack for like travel and like coordinating travel plans and flights and cars and hotels and whatever. I can do that like nobody's business and coordinate how everybody can meet up at the same place coming from like I really have a knack for that. So in that sense and that type of planning, well, and I like vacations. So
Mhm.
I'm really good at planning vacations and I'm very organized with that because I'm motivated to go on vacation. But if you were to ask me, like, oh, you're working on this class, give me a timeline of when you're going to have what by when, I'd be like, last minute, you'll get it. When do you want it by? You want it Friday at 5 o'clock? You'll have it at 4:58 on Friday. That's when you'll get everything. Everything will happen at the same time. So I need like again that structure of when do you need it and what are you looking for or what am I looking for? But if you ask me to like plan it all out in advance, I'm that's not going to happen. But even like on those vacations, again, I'm good at coordinating again flights, hotels, cars, transportation. But if you were to ask me, what are we going to do once we get there? We'll see what happens. If you give me an itinerary, you have to be here by this date. No, thank you. Because what if I'm having a good time where I'm at? Now I have to leave to go do something else. That's not a good time for me. So I need some flexibility. And that's why you can't travel with everybody, by the way. That's why you can't travel. Not everybody's travel compatible. I learned the hard way.
Yeah. Or if you are, you just have to be okay being on separate plans, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you know. But that's fine. I mean, but I'm I'm relatively deadline driven and I don't like it about myself very often. Um, I've always been very jealous of those folks who have their plans in order and, you know, get the good seats because they've, planned to get them ahead of time or, those things like that. Those are always, folks where, gosh, I wish I was more planful, right? Who stay on top of things and aren't waiting till the last, oh, I need to pay this bill and I need to take care of this. And it's always scramble at the end, a little deadline driven, right? Pressure
Hmm.
prompted is the other, way to say that, I guess, whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but that's definitely, you know, um, a way to be motivated. I'm motivated by deadlines. I'm motivated by due dates, right? Or past due notices, right? And it's annoying. It's frustrating, and I wish I was better at it. And I try to be better at it. I do things to be better at it. I use my Google Calendar a lot. I have a to-do list, right? And when I teach those time management and organization classes, right? And I do a lot, I do that a lot. I always tell people, I said, I'm the best instructor you're ever going to have for this because it's the stuff that I use on a regular basis,
Hmm.
right? So, you're learning from all my bad beats, right? And so these are the things to be aware of and things that I've worked, not just for me, but for other people. But these are things that are functional. We're not talking about theory. I can't, Tip, I can't stand when we spend 2 days teaching people theory and not having any practical application. It's those are those are the times where I feel like, what are we doing to help? I mean, it's great to fill
Hmm.
people's heads with knowledge. What do they do with that knowledge? Anyway, so I
Yeah.
digress. I went off on a
Same.
tangent.
You're
You know,
preaching. You're preaching to the choir. You're preaching to the choir. Trust
I
and
feel like
believe.
we might have had that conversation before. I don't know. But
Yeah.
but just thinking about some folks are motivated in that way. And a lot of people say, well, it's not motivation. You have to. Well, motivation is what helps you to get up off the couch, right? Get up out of your chair
Right.
to take that action. And I'm not saying it's the most healthy motivation for a lot of folks, for most folks, right? But it is motivation, right? So thinking about you can be motivated that way, but I want to be motivated to not have to deal with the stress, right? Which produces adrenaline. The adrenaline is what motivates me to get online and make that bill pay, right? And
Right.
how can I understand the benefits, which is not going to produce the adrenaline and the cortisol, but it's going to produce the dopamine, right? And
Yeah.
the serotonin and all those other wonderful chemicals that tell you, good job, you did this,
Hmm.
right? And so, how do you stay on top of things? How do you get to where you want to get? I asked a question a couple classes ago, what gets you excited to come to work? Right.
Hmm.
And a lot of, and you mentioned money, just like a lot of people do when I ask them that question. And that's great. But how long do you stay motivated past the paycheck? Right. I mean,
Right.
you get hired, when you're looking for a job, what are you looking for? The job that you can do, the qualifications, how much it pays, where's the benefits, right? Things like that. Right. Which are the things that attract you to a job?
Yeah.
Right. And what are the things that keep you at a job? They're different. Right? If you look at we've already talked about this, right? Treating people well, developing, right? Your direct supervisor, work-life balance, those things, are all important to us to help us, stay at a job, right? But if you're motivated by the paycheck, which is legitimate, some people are just there to work and to feed their kids, that's great. But, if you're their leader, how are you feeling about them just getting by? Is that okay? Right? And so, what is it that motivates someone? That's the paycheck. Once they pass probation, how long does it take before probation is, hey, look, I passed probation, I have the job security, right? So, what happens after that? We don't get paid enough for this,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And when that sets in, if you don't have anything that motivates you, you're going to show up every day and just do what you decided you wanted to do, right? And I'm going to punch the clock and get my work done, right? And as we've already mentioned, Gallup calls that disengagement,
Hmm.
right? Just doing just doing enough to say that you're doing your job, right? What is engagement? Being energized, motivated, actively involved, right? So, what are the things that motivate you to go past your normal functionality, right? To go past the last minute, oh, we'll figure that out, right? What energizes you? What gets you excited to to have that focus that leads you to be more effective and more productive?
Well, I want to take this in a theoretical direction for just a moment, because
Yeah,
the real answer is again, it depends. It
yeah,
depends. I'm personally me, I'm very motivated about helping other people. So I might not do it for myself, but if somebody else will benefit or their life will be better because of something, I'm very, very motivated by that. My
mhm.
husband tapped into this because we would talk about exercise a lot and being more active. And I'd be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he'd be like, okay, let's go work out. And I'm like, eh. And one time he told me, I the only reason that I stay on you to exercise is not for any reason except for having had taken care of my mom when she was sick. Um, I understand the value of keeping ourselves healthy. All I really want is for us to be healthy so we don't have to rely on our kids to take care of us. And so that was motivating for me, not thinking about it for like myself, but thinking about my kids and even him of not having to, you know, take care of me because I'm physically not able to do so myself. So that was motivating. But I want to go to like a theoretical standpoint, like the three motivational theories specifically that I think about, and I'm not going to be too scientific on these, but needs based motivation. Like we behave in a way because we need something. The one that I think almost everybody's familiar with is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I actually have, it's so funny because when we talked about this topic, like what are we going to talk about? I remembered I had like a note in my phone that I had like this epiphany one day about this related to the workplace. So we can talk about that in a minute. Um, but needs based. So I might be motivated because again, the pressure of I need food, I need shelter, I need love, I need attention, whatever, wherever I'm at, there's something that I need. So I'm motivated to achieve it because I want to meet that need. So that's one, needs based. And there's lots of other theories, but that one I think is the one that most people are familiar with. The second I think driver of behavior and motivation is what you talked about earlier, like the positive and negative motivation. Um, some people call it the carrot and stick motivation or prizes and punishment, right? I want the reward, I want the benefit of doing something, or I'm trying to avoid a consequence, or I'm trying to avoid a punishment for whatever it is. And so, um, again, talking about exercise, the prize for me to be motivated to exercise might be that, I can fit into this really great dress for my son's wedding. But the punishment part might be my doctor told me if I don't get to a healthy weight, I have to take medication and I don't want to do that. So that might drive my behavior. But recently I read a book from Daniel Pink. It's called Drive. And he was talking about a newer motivational factor, a newer motivational theory, really thinking about how especially in like today's society where we have most of our basic needs met, not always, but for the most part, especially in the workplace, um, around mastery, like doing things for the pleasure of mastering them and feeling like you've conquered something. So the competition per se, we also can be very motivated by autonomy and purpose. So those are like the three things that he mentions as motivating factors, just looking at 40 years of research on motivational theory. But again, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Now, I thought about that mastery one, and I can say that this is one that really does speak to me because one of my most motivating things is if somebody tells me I can't do it. If you tell me I can't do something, I guarantee you I'm going to do it just to prove you wrong. I succeed out of spite. I think we've had this conversation before. All of the good in my life has been to prove other people wrong. So I succeed out of spite. I really, really do. So when someone says you can't do that, there's no way you could pull that off. Bet. But I do it for myself as well. Like I really love proving things to me like, oh, I can do it, or I can do great, wonderful, amazing things I never imagined. Um, I went to Hawaii in January and I swam with sharks. Now, what did I get out of swimming with sharks? Absolutely nothing. Would I ever do it again? Never in a million years would I get into a cage with sharks again. It was the most terrifying. This I would never. I was like, I almost had a heart attack. I was so anxious. It was so, the adrenaline was too much. But I also can say I swam with sharks. Like, how many people do you know swam with sharks? I think it's kind of a cool, fun fact that I have been in the water with sharks circling all around me within feet of me and I didn't die. So for me, that was very motivating to kind of check it off my list and never do it again. Never, I proved my point. I don't need to do it again. So I'm not motivated to swim with sharks again, but I definitely was motivated to do it because it's something that I had to prove that I could do because I was really scared to do it. So, and my husband kept telling me I would chicken out. And so I had to prove him wrong. So that's why I did because I had to prove him wrong. He won't catch me a second time. He'll prove me wrong. If he says you won't do it again, I'm like, damn straight, you right on that one. I'm not doing that again. So those are the three that come to mind for me. Again, needs based. And I can say, like, I know you and I did a coaching session, a practice one a few weeks ago, and I was talking about wanting to invest more time in one area of my life. And you were like, well, what would motivate you? And I said, necessity. If I had to, I would. But because I haven't had to, there's not a need there. It's a want, it's not a need. I haven't been as motivated to move in that direction because it's not a necessity. So needs based, I think, really does impact me um, in many different ways in all areas of my life. We'll dig into that a little bit deeper if you want to. The prizes and punishment, of course, are always there. It's like, do I pay my parking ticket or do I pay the fine later on when it's double because I didn't pay it? The prizes, let me just pay the parking ticket and get it out of the way. I don't want the punishment. And it definitely mastery and purpose are important to me. Autonomy too, for sure. I like to do what I want. Don't tell me what to do because I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah, so I hear you with those the three different um models and theories. The needs based, just talking about Maslow. Often we talk about Maslow when we're thinking about the engagement. I really use Maslow to help um human service professionals just understand
Mhm.
the differences that a lot of folks, and if you have basic human survival, right, or just even that next level of safety, and if anybody's not familiar with Maslow, there's a 5 level model, 7 level model. I like the 5 level model,
Me
right?
too.
So basic needs, food, shelter, water, clothing, right? And then safety, job security, being in a safe neighborhood, safety of body, not being in an abusive situation, right, where there's any type of threats. That idea of belonging, right? I always equate it to status, right? Having a positive status, feeling like someone is there to support you, to be loved, right? And then the next level is esteem, right? So self-improvement, achievement, personal achievement of fulfilling, your goals. And then that self-actualization where you're thinking about, where am I in this world and what is it that I'm, giving back to the world? What have I contributed? Who am I to this larger scheme of things, right? And there's a couple things when we think about that. We can be motivated by those basic survival needs, right? I mean, just on a regular basis. I don't know. Have you ever been hangry? And if you're hungry, how easy is it to think about getting things done or doing other things, right? Or, when you're tired, you don't have your coffee, right? If you haven't slept well, or if you are sick at all, right? Just how easy is it to be as functional and as effective as you want to be? If you're worried about a hiring freeze or a layoff, right, in that second level, right? Or, maybe you're worrying about your relationship and is it going to last, right? Or, you know, um, whatever else it is, right? That can be really hard. If you don't feel like you have any type of status, if you don't have any type of place where you have people that see you and help you to feel belong, like you belong and love, that can be hard, right? So there's places all the way up and down, that can keep us from being who we want to be. And at each successive level, that's all you're focusing on. So I tell workers all the time, if you're a worker who has a badge and has some type of status in the community, you're pretty much either at level 3 or above, right? So if you have somebody who has some type of existential need where, you know, I tell them in intake appointments, I ask people if they've ever done an intake appointment for eligibility. And a lot of people say yes. What do they ask? What do a lot of clients ask you? How long is this going to take? What am I getting? And when am I getting it? That's you tell them all these wonderful things. We'll help you find a job. We'll help you get an education. We'll help you take care of your kids. That's great. When am I going to get all this stuff? Because I got to go. I got a WIC appointment. I don't have time for this, right? And so because they need to have those existential needs taken care of. Once those are granted, give me a chance to breathe. Now I can think about that next level, right? But once you've achieved that level, because you're focused on getting to that next level, you don't think about where you've come from very often. So, especially if it's been in the past. So, if you've never been on the first or second level and you're interacting with people in that level, if you don't have that intentional idea of perspective, if you don't relate to those people on a very human level, it's very hard to connect with them and to understand their motivations. So when they don't come through with something, if you want to judge them as intentionally trying to be non-compliant or failing, right? Which may not necessarily be the intent. It just may be that's not what I'm thinking about right now. You're asking me to think about, where I want to be in 5 years, and I'm worried about where I'm going to sleep tonight you know it's hard to have that relationship, right? And same thing with bosses, right? Just
Hmm.
in leadership, if you have not been on that entry level, passing probation, even just taking a test, right? Or learning the job, you just expect. I just had a coaching session this morning with somebody who mentioned that, well, I mean, we hired them with to because they should be able to understand these skills. What if they don't? What if there's a manager who gets promoted to an upper management position and is not given any training or development in that position? Like they're supposed to just be able to know how to be a senior leader through osmosis, right? And we know skills are not transferable, not always. I mean, the best accountant in the world could be a very crappy boss because those are two different,
Exactly.
right? So Yeah, I hear you. The needs-based motivation, we have those needs, we need to satisfy those needs. What happens when we get to that fourth need, right? Or that third need, that idea of esteem, of self-improvement. What is your idea of self-improvement? How do we tap into that? What is it that you want to do? What if your overall goal in life was to be able to provide for your children and no one, and you've never been challenged to think past that? What happens
Hmm.
when that's satisfied? What's next? Is there something next?
Yeah.
Right? And then the carrot and stick, sure. I mean, you know, I've lost I've lost weight in my life. And I just lost 50 pounds last year and I love the way I fit in my clothes. And, so, but I had to sacrifice. I couldn't eat what I wanted to. I couldn't, I still can't. I'm a diabetic as well. I mean, shoot, if I had my druthers, I'd have, a quart of ice cream in front of me pretty much 24/7. But I also know that I've had two grandparents that have died from diabetes, right? And you know, I had limbs um amputated and
Amputated.
yes, thank you. And sight lost and dialysis and all these other things that I know is something that I don't want to go through. I'm seeing my mom dealing with that now. And right. So these are things that I recognize that carrot and the stick. What's the carrot? I get to live a longer life. What's the stick? I've witnessed that and I've been a caretaker to people who have suffered from that. So what is, that motivation that's keeping me on the right path? I mean, just health, is that a positive motivation or is that a something that's keeping a negative from happening, right? And so just having that conversation about that. And then you mentioned, what Daniel Pink talked about, with mastery, autonomy, and purpose. Sounds a lot like what I use when I talk about uh, with Spitzer, his workplace motivators, right? What motivates you past the paycheck? There's got to be something. What do you like about your job? Right? Even if it's your coworkers, that's what, that's part of, his idea. He had 8 different categories, right? In terms of what excites you and what gets you motivated at your job, right? And one was to have that idea of being active, right? So being active in what it is that you do, and getting your hands dirty, getting things done, seeing things grow, right? Building things, right? The second was the idea of um, being accountable, right? And owning, having responsibility and ownership for what it is that you do, right? So, when you're given a task, you own the success as much as you own the challenges, right? I mean, we get called out to the carpet when we don't do something correctly, so it definitely is motivating to be called out on things that we do well, right? For someone to see us doing that. And then you have the next level is uh to be to have that level of autonomy, like you mentioned, right? To be delegated to be trusted, right? To have people not feel like they have to micromanage you, right? To give you responsibility, right? And to leave you alone, right? That next one is that sense of belonging, to be part of something larger than yourself, right? Number 5 is development, right? So you are accomplishing things, you're learning, you're learning your skills or utilizing your skills at work, right? So, are you put in a position where you get to actually practice what you're good at, right? The next one is achievement, right? So starting something and closing the loop, right? So do you ever get to achieve your goals? Do your projects that you're working on ever get completed to fulfillment, right? And the next is appreciation, right? We've already talked about appreciation, being recognized as valuable to your team, right? And, being called out for your boss, for doing things well, as much as, you're having corrective conversations, but also to be valued as a person, right? Be valued as somebody who is not just somebody who's turning in information, but actually, that you care about who they are as a human being. And the last thing is meaning, right? So that what you're doing is making a difference, or that you're seeing an impact in the bottom line, in your community, with your customers based off of what you're doing. So, I mean, mastery is that utilizing your skills. Autonomy is to be trusted and delegated to. Purpose is making a difference, right? So those 8 different areas Spitzer did a lot of research on. And he said, and there's an assessment that I've utilized a lot. And you can look at it and decide and just decipher what are those things that really get you going. And you can have one of those things that get you going. You can have all 8 that get you going. You can have, maybe one that kind of gets you going and the rest of them not really. But just recognizing what are those things that, motivate us when we're at work. Not everyone is motivated by, well, you should be glad you have a job. That's not motivating. That's working at a deficit. That's the Brene Brown at least attitude, right?
Right.
Well, at least you have a job. Yeah, that's not motivating. Don't tell me at least I have a job. I'll go find another one, right? But what gets you going? The things that get me going, just recognizing that, the activity, just to be active in getting something done, the appreciation and recognition that I'm doing things well and to make a difference. And, I'm motivated every day when I'm in front of a class teaching. I mean, especially in who our clientele is and who our our base of learners are, because the impact of what they do is so important. So, it's I love being able to do what I love to do. Not everyone does that, but what about your job gets you going, right? And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I love that you brought those up because those are all so important. This concludes part 1 of our episode. Stay tuned for part 2, coming Tuesday to all major podcast platforms.